Welcome back to the Shrink Down. Hello, ladies. How are you doing today?
Good.
Good.
Good. All right. So today we're going to be talking about the holidays, and specifically, we're going to be talking about parenting during the holidays. Holidays bring lots of joy, connection, tradition, but also a lot of noise. And I mean that both literally and figuratively, expectations, and also stress. As a parent, we all know that. So we're going to be talking about just parenting in general for our kind of neurotypical kids, and then also kind of the added layer to parenting our kids who are neurodivergent. So we'll be talking about some of the challenges that we come across as parents, but also giving some tips and some strategies too that can be really helpful during this time of year. All right, before we get into our discussion, let's do our 4-minute faves. And today I remembered it was 4 minutes and not 5 minutes. Lauren, do you want to start us off today?
Sure. So I am recommending a new movie that's out on Netflix, and it's called The Thursday Murder Club. And it's with Helen Mirren, Pierce Brosnan. There's like really good. I'm forgetting the other man's name, Ben Kingsley. Like really big names. But the reason I'm recommending it, so it's super cute, super easy plot line to follow. But we watched it this past weekend with my parents. So my youngest son is 10, all the way up to my dad and my mom and dad that are in their 70s, and we all enjoyed it. So it's a really just like light, funny. They're obviously, it's called the Thursday Murder Club. They're investigating murders, but it's perfect for all ages. It's PG-13 just because of a little bit of language, which we're okay with in my household. But that's why the rating is a little bit higher. There's nothing super scary or anything like that to be concerned about. But it's like an all-star cast and really, really fun. Easy plot line for a 10-year-old to follow all the way up. So it didn't, there wasn't a whole lot that went over anybody's head. So highly recommend for like an easy, fun holiday watch if you're with multi-generations, especially.
That's good to know. It's based on a book that was people really liked. I think, I don't know if the book falls into like that cozy mystery category, but I think it is in that.
That's a good way of describing it. Yes. Cozy mystery. Yes. I like that. Yeah. It definitely was. It was cute. So
you said it was called the Thursday Club?
Thursday Murder Club.
Murder Club. Okay.
Yeah. What about you, Wilhelmina?
So first, I just want to give like a quick shout out because I get People Magazine. It's my I love it. And Jonathan Bailey, who you might know from Bridgerton and from Wicked.
Yes.
He was announced as the sexiest man alive. And he has made history being the first openly gay man to be labeled as sexiest man alive, which is a huge thing in Hollywood because that was sort of what people used to say of like why men didn't come out, actors didn't come out because they wouldn't be deemed sexy. And so like this sort of marks this moment of, wait, a man can say he's gay and still be thought of as a sex symbol for men and women alike. So I just thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. My fave is a book of poetry. It's called How About Now by Kate Baer. So this is her 4th book of poetry. The very small book. I mean, it's like 97 pages, and all of her poetry books are around that length. She is 40 years old and married with kids, and she writes a lot about being a woman, being middle-aged, being a mom, being a wife. And her poetry is so good. It's very readable. So it's not like it's not Shakespeare, but it's so relatable as a woman, and my middle-aged woman. And it's just so raw and poignant. It's beautiful. And again, I've read all of her poetry books. I've seen her in person. She's amazing. And yeah, so if you looking for a quick read, because obviously it's just little poems. And I just wanted to read this one line. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's called Marriage Poem. And it's like, my husband says I have a way of making everything into something. The happiest hours of my life have been alone, watching my family through a window. I love my life except for the noise of it, which I just thought was like a cool way to phrase sort of the mixed feelings we can feel at times when we're like, I love my family and I love my life, but it's so chaotic and loud and noisy and messy. And I just thought in one little line, she just summed that up. And I feel like that's a good like example of her poetry in general. So highly recommend. It just came out. So yeah. Terry, what about you?
Mine is one that I believe you also have, Wilhelmina. We spent a lot of time talking about the brand Calpak, Calpak.
Yes. Oh.
They are a company that makes suitcases, travel gear, and they have a travel duffel bag. It's called the Luka, Luka,
Mhm.
travel duffel. I've had it for a couple years. I believe several of us have it.
I have it too.
Yes.
I bought it after I saw both of yours.
I'm a huge fan. Was on a girls' trip recently, and two of us had it. And one of my other friends was like, "I'm putting this on my Christmas list." I don't have it to hold up, but essentially, it has a compartment on the bottom to fit shoes. It doesn't take up a lot of room, but really fits a lot in. Has a lot of compartments that are all very useful, and then it also has this slot on the outside so that you can slide it over the handles of your carry-on. So you can plop it on top of your carry-on. It'll fit snugly because you slide it in. It's awesome. I actually bought the Calpak brand backpack recently. I had intentions of walking to work because I moved offices a couple months ago. I have yet to actually do that. However, my plan was to do that. Maybe it'll happen
It's a
one
good
day.
idea.
Yes, seemed like a great idea. So I have two of their products. Now, actually, I have two of their suitcases, their rolling suitcases, their carry-on size and their bigger, larger size. Yes. And then I have their travel duffel and now their backpack. They have great sales. I think right now everything's 20% off around the holidays. They have stuff on clearance. It's Calpak, Calpak. Highly recommend their travel stuff.
And I have the backpack as well and love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I'd gotten tired of like having like a one-shouldered bag when I was traveling. And so I transitioned to the backpack and love it for like airplanes when you're just like having to do a lot of walking. For a road trip, I like the Luka.
Right.
Yeah. And I will say, so I bought it after our last trip that you both had it and I was asking you about it. And since then it's actually become Mark's bag.
Oh, that's funny.
Stealing your luggage. He keeps stealing it.
He keeps stealing my luggage. Yes, he stole my away bag. He is currently on a trip right now. He's coming home today and he has the Calpak with him.
That's hysterical.
It's definitely gender neutral. Like, some bags look a little like maybe more feminine, more like I feel like that's a really good kind of gender neutral bag, like the way it looks. So we have it in black. So he has used it on several trips. So I can vouch that it is well liked in my home as well.
Yeah, it's a good one.
My watermelon color one is a little bit less gender neutral.
Yes. But I mean, I just meant the style of the bag. Yes, depending on what color you get. We have it in black, but the style is not like, I feel like it's pretty gender neutral.
Yeah. How about you, Vanessa?
So I am actually going to recommend a show today, The Witcher. So this is definitely in the like fantasy fiction genre. It's based on a book, like a book series. And it's so if you're like a Game of Thrones, like that's the similar genre. So if you like Game of Thrones, I think you would like The Witcher. So season 4 came out. I think it might be already like 2 or 3 weeks. And I was hesitant to watch it because Henry Cavill played, I think that's how you say his last name. He played The Witcher and I loved him as The Witcher. And then from what I read, he was supposed to get tapped for Superman and said he couldn't do The Witcher. And then that actually didn't happen, but it was too late. And so they actually had Liam Hemsworth take the role, which I was like, this is why I didn't watch it, because I was like, that is the weirdest replacement. I mean, I think they're like 10 years between the two of them.
Very different looks.
Very different. And so I think there is a video game. I'm not really sure, but I've seen like a cartoon version of The Witcher, which is what they made Henry Cavill look just like him. Like they obviously he's wearing a wig, but like the same around the same age, same like built. Like he was just such a good Witcher. So when they announced that it was going to be Liam Hemsworth, I was like, how is that going to work? So I was really hesitant to keep watching because I was like, this is so weird that that's who is replacing him. But I will say, I think this is the best season, the season 4. I still think that Henry Cavill is a better Witcher, but I actually am pleasantly surprised with Liam Hemsworth how good of a job he's doing. And to be honest, I think if he had been it originally, I would have liked the show. But he's doing a really good job. But this season actually was the best for me. I think somebody else is directing it. It definitely has more of that like the slowed fight scenes where like, they like slash someone and you see the blood like slowly. Sarah, you wouldn't like this, so it's definitely got that like vibe to it. It's a very cool like cinematography, I will say. So it's just a really good season, a lot of like character development. But The Witcher is essentially, so it's a fantasy fiction. I'm not going to get too much into it, but The Witcher is the main character. His name is Geralt, I think is how you pronounce it. And he fights creatures and he basically has this love interest. She's a witch. And so there's a lot of this fantasy fiction and they have this whole like tumultuous relationship, which I just love. Like it's such a good relationship. And then there's this girl, I won't give away too much, that they're protecting essentially. And so it's just kind of the story of the 3 characters and how their stories intertwine. It's really good if you like that genre. So
I've heard it's quite steaming too at times, which
yes, but there have been seasons where
interest.
like, yes. So that was one of the reasons why I was like, how's this going to work? Because yes, Henry Cavill and the main character, her name is Yen. I forget the actress's name. I've never actually seen her before. She's great. She's amazing. Her character is so good. Their chemistry was like, wow. So I was curious how chemistry was. I would say it's good.
It's not as good.
It's not as good, but it is good. So again, I was kind of like, oh, how's this going to work? So it's good, but it's not as good as it was with the original, but still a good show. So the last season is coming out. They've already finished filming it. So it comes out next fall. And I
assume you have to start at season 1.
You do. You definitely have to start at 1. And I will say, I can't remember if it's season 1 or season 2. I think it was season 2. The way it was filmed is very odd. That's why I said I think they have a new film director. And I know it kind of threw Mark off. He was like, what is this? This is weird. I don't get it. But when you watch it, if you watch it all the way to the end, then you're like, oh my God. It's like one of those where like the way they filmed it's like weird. And you're like, what is happening? What is happening? And then when you get to the end and you realize it makes so much sense. And it's actually really awesome what happened, like how, like what it reveals. So I would definitely say definitely a good show if you like that genre for sure. So The Witcher, it's on Netflix.
That's been on my list for a while. I think you mentioned it to me a while back and it's been on my
I think
been on my queue.
Season 2 or 3 was a little bit slow, but definitely still worth it. But this season is just so good. So good. I have 1 episode left. I can't wait to watch it tonight. All right, ladies, thank you for sharing. So holidays are coming up. This episode is going to drop right before Thanksgiving. And so Terry mentioned, let's talk about holiday and parenting, our typical kids, our neurotypical and neurodivergent kids, talking a little bit about some of the things that we might experience. And I think most importantly, giving some tips and strategies of some things that can be helpful during the holidays. I think one of the things that I thought of when you mentioned this topic, Terry, was something that happens a lot during the holidays, and it's like going to other people's homes. Like that happens a lot, that at some point in the holiday season, you're going to end up at someone else's house. And so I was thinking of, what are some things that you can do even before you get there to kind of prepare for what's going to happen, right? And so I think that's something I know as myself, I don't always do as a parent, but I think can be really helpful about talking about who's going to be there, what to expect there, and then things, I think even more importantly, to talk about things that what not to expect there, right? Or things that might have changed from like the previous years. I was just thinking of like my family specifically, like we used to all have this like really big celebration. Everybody was there. And I think between like COVID and a falling out between a couple of people in my family, it's not the big, party that it was before. So I know that one of the things my daughter is always like, "Oh, is so and so going to be there?" So, so I'm always like, "Okay, this is the people who are going to be there. This is what we're doing." And that can be, I think, really helpful for kids to know kind of what to expect there. And obviously, things can change, right? Like you can't prepare for every situation or scenario. But I think that that is something that can be really helpful for kids. Is it's kind of previewing like the expectations of who's going to be there and kind of what's going to happen and what's not going to happen and who might not be there, or like a tradition that maybe has changed from previous years, things that we're like not doing anymore. I think can be really helpful.
So I know in my practice, and I'm sure in other people's practice, I call it priming in the same way that we use the word or the term priming for when we're working with kids, or educators, interventionists are working with kids on academics, priming for comprehension. It's the same idea. It's like, in order to best comprehend the situation, if we prime ourselves, we prime our kids, you will see the best outcomes. And I think it makes a whole lot of sense when we think about how we all function in unknown situations. It increases our anxiety, and in different kids, people, all of us deal with anxiety in different ways. And so if we go through some priming exercises of, walking through where you're going to be and how it's going to, play out, who's going to be there, things that would be typical versus not typical, things that you can expect and do that'll be exciting and fun, things that might be a little bit
boring,
I don't know,
boring,
overwhelming or scary or right, anxiety provoking. Priming is a strategy that always works. And I think when you term it that way for people, I have found in my practice, when you use that term, people's brains immediately go to academic priming, comprehension, and it really does apply in these different situations. And I think it helps you in a really natural way to prepare yourself, your kids, whomever, for the situation.
And I think what goes...
In addition to that, I think that...
Go
ahead. In addition to that, we have a smaller family, even when we're all together, which we usually are for the holidays. But we do have a wide age range of kiddos now, ranging from just 1 to my daughter, who's 13. And so I have found that I like to plan for some sort of activity or craft or something that all the kids can do together, because sometimes there's a bit of a wall between the different age groups, and just being play together doesn't really work, but being at the same table and all doing something together does help. All of a sudden that wall breaks down a little bit, and then they're kind of talking, and then they slowly kind of evolve into playing. And so that's something that I've found that's helpful when you have kind of a wider age gap with kids and you're trying to get them, one, maybe occupied, and two, to kind of, if they haven't seen each other in a while or things like that, they get something that brings them together that they're doing, and then it kind of helps break the ice a little bit.
And what goes along with that is the priming and the previewing. But in addition to, do you have a game plan for your kids if something goes awry or something happens that is frustrating? Somebody makes a comment to them, someone tries to force them to eat something that they don't want to eat, on and on. The example that I can think of is, if we've talked with our kids, we have a lot of nieces and nephews who are older. So on my husband's side, my kids are the youngest. What do you do if your cousins are on their phones the whole time? And my kids don't have cell phones yet.
I love that question.
Yes.
And what you bring up, Wilhelmina, makes sense, but it actually gets really, really tricky once there's teenagers and young adults in your family, which is coming down the pipeline.
You're right.
And they want to be on their phones the whole time. Or they'll play one game of Yahtzee and then they're on their phones, or they do the craft and then they're right on their phones. And we talked with our kids about, if you feel like a particular cousin is too engaged, come up, pull us aside. What would be the language you would use? What would you say to us? Like, hey, I'm feeling really frustrated. We can help troubleshoot. We can practice a script and a role play of what you could say to a particular cousin or family member if you want them to come play with you and they're not. What do you think warrants coming to us as an adult for further support? And I also think that you need to give kids direction and jobs. It can't be like, here we are, we've arrived at grandma or aunt blah, blah, blah's house and it's a free for all. what's the agenda, and you need to be able to do that on the fly. Is everybody watching football? Okay, maybe during halftime we can play a board game. Is everybody, doing X, Y, and Z? But you as a parent need to be flexible with a routine and get a lay of the land and be able to think on the fly of what are we going to do with the kids, especially when it's not your own home. And that's where it gets a lot trickier. When you are not hosting, you have to really be prepared. That means bringing things with you. If it's bringing board games or Uno or whatever it is, if it's nice out, bringing a football, so they can play catch. But I really think you've got to be planful, preview, and also preview with your kids what to do when things don't go according to the preview plan. What are you going to do to get some support around that?
Yeah, we always have Everly, and we do this even like just to go out to dinner. I'm like, fill a backpack, like get your backpack, whatever is going to keep you occupied. And I'll tell her, like, here's who's going to be there so that like, are any of those people going to play with you? Or like, so she gets the lay of the land and she knows what to bring and how much stuff to bring with her. Or we'll be like, we're going to a house, there are no toys there, right? Like, so this is going to be a no toy zone. So you know what to put in your back, you like pack your, whatever you think is going to keep you. And that works pretty well to keep her busy because she's picking, she's at the age now where she can pick whatever she wants in there. But I think that's really important to like not just assume you're going to show up somewhere and there's going to be stuff for your kids to do, that like you may need to bring some things for them. Even if there is stuff, I think kids like having their own kind of things with them, and that can really help, I think, avoid some of the stress.
And in addition to the like priming, so we do the hosting for Thanksgiving, and I establish we are not playing video games. We are not on our iPads. So don't even ask. Like, don't even ask, because it's going to be a no. And then I put those away so they're not even visual. And the only thing that I will allow them to play is the next, which I think was one of my favorites last season, which is that one where they're really active and they're doing that. And I said, that's the only thing I'll say yes to from like an electronic standpoint, because otherwise they're like, we're bored. Can we go watch TV? Can we go do this? And I'm like, no, you cannot. And I'm going to say no ahead of time. I'm going to say no. So I'm going to just tell you right now, I'm going to say no. So don't even ask.
Well, so I have a question, guys.
Same.
What do you do when you host? So I'm hosting both a Thanksgiving and a Christmas event this year. What do you do when you're the host and that's your expectation? We're going to hang and we're going to be together and we're going to talk and we're going to eat, and there's games and there's activities to do, and there's always football on TV. So there is like that screen available, but people come into your home and let their kids be on their phones the entire time. What do you do?
Yes.
Because that's happened to me.
It's happened to me
or
also.
Or they let their kid bring a device or something like that, and the kid's sitting in the corner. Now, do you have empathy? Do you think that kid must be anxious or struggling or whatever, and they need to be self-focused and self-regulating in the corner? What do you do? It's easy to judge.
It is. It is.
Sure. Well, my husband,
silent. It's not an easy answer.
I tell you what. I think it depends on the
kid,
the
what
family,
it is.
like your relation. I think there's a lot of like different ways that can pan out.
Because if this were my nephew, I'd be like, get off your iPad. Like, come on, let's go over. If
you have that relationship with them,
yes.
And well, I have two. I have one question I wanted to pose to the group, but before I do that, I will say what we tried on one occasion last year for the holidays. I think it was Thanksgiving. We hosted Thanksgiving for my husband's side, and maybe it was a Christmas thing. Regardless, at one of the holidays, my husband looked around, and it wasn't just the teenagers and young adults. It was all the adults, and everybody was on their phone. And my husband grabbed me and said, look around. And we did. And he's like, everybody's on their phone. And I'm like, oh my gosh. He goes, the next thing we host, I'm having a phone basket by the front door. I will text everybody and give them a heads up. He executed on that plan, and it went fine. It went great. I think we'll have to see what this round of holidays brings. We did not have the nieces and nephews who are 16 and up put their phones in. It was more like the 12-year-old, 12, so that had to put their phone in. You do, as they get older, you do run into your teenage nieces and nephews being like, I'm texting my boyfriend. I'm like, sorry, this is my phone. I'm not getting off of it. And I also think my question for the group is, what do you do if you set that expectation about no video games, no screens, etc., and your child decides this is the year that they're going to push back in front of everybody? And they're just going to go on, because that will likely happen. And so, this is the year we're either going to sneak it, and you're going to catch them, or they're going to, in front of family, extended family, cause a scene. How do you handle that?
So I'm thinking of like Lauren's question, your question. So I think that if it's important to you that no one's on the screen, right? So if you're hosting, right? Let's just say you're hosting. If it's important to you that no one's on the screen, I think what you said Dan did last year was to make sure everybody knows in advance, right? Like you can't just be like, show up at the house. But I think that's hard. I think when it comes down to the teenagers not doing it, it's really their parents that need to like, right? Like if you've told the parents, hey, this is the expectation, then it's really the parents' job to say, this is the expectation when you go over to Aunt so-and-so's or Uncle so-and-so's or Grandma's house, is that we're not using it. So I think if you're hosting, like that shouldn't be punted on you for that, right? Like you've asked the family, like this is what the expectation is. Now, however, in a scenario where like you've told everyone and then you have now family who are not, who like a parent, like who is not, is letting their teenager do whatever they want.
Or you're getting the sneaking.
Then I think then that's hard. So I don't know. I think depending on my relationship, I would go to the parent of that teen and say, hey, remember, like I wouldn't confront the teen personally. I would say to the parent, like, remember we were not like, we said that we were going to do this, and take that conversation to the adults to see if they would. Again, I don't know. It may not change anything. They may not, depending on.
I think this is where you have to be careful not to parent another kid, though, too.
Well, that's what I said. I would never say it to the kid, right? I would never.
Yep. As a host, I think to answer your question, Terry, the devices are just going to be hidden for my kids, so that I don't even have to have that confrontation with them. They're just not going to know where they are. I would have the conversation beforehand. This is an event. This is like, you've got family here. This is so fun. There's so many like cool things about this. You will see some of the other kids on their phones. I think this is, I'm saying it out loud. I'm working through it with you guys in the moment.
Yeah.
You're going to see other kids on their phones, their devices. That's not my jam. Like what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to talk to people and look them in the eye. We're going to learn how to do a game or watch a football game or go outside and throw the football or whatever. That's what, and I get to decide that as a parent, and other parents that are here are going to make different decisions. Then you do the follow-up, which is you tell them like, this is going to be challenging and I know you can handle it. Like you work with them on managing their frustration in the moment, even before it happens, by going back to the priming. Right. And I think, I think it's okay for you to, I don't know, is it really bad if you just kind of say that out loud? Like, I know this is not your mom's choice as a parent, but other parents are making different choices now.
Everyone makes their own choice. Well,
I mean, it just,
one thought I had,
like family of the rules.
One thought I had for this coming round of holidays is a lot of teenagers and young adults will do a phone stack when they go to restaurants. So they will all stack their phones in the middle of the table, so that, and they're face down usually, and they do a phone stack and then they just have dinner. And so I thought about having people do that. Like, let's do a phone stack in the dining room, on the buffet, or by the front door. And you can go check it periodically, but otherwise phones are here, and you can check it once an hour or whatever, just to sort of model what teenagers and young adults are already doing. That's just something that I've thought about to make it a bit more collaborative.
I like the idea of saying like, we're going to do like, give you an opportunity at some point to like check your phone. So like maybe if this is something that's important to you and you're sharing that with your guests, like we're going to try to, keep phones away, but we will have opportunities for anyone who needs to check it. Right. I guess there's some instances, and obviously for the teens, like they need to check their phones. I like that idea that you can, that way they feel like, okay, I will have a time where I can look at my phone and then I'll put it away. So, I think
as a full-grown adult, how would you feel if somebody I don't feel like I'm as attached to my phone. I wouldn't really care one way or the other.
I wouldn't either.
There is a part of me. There is a part of me not about the phone, but like telling me what to do. That's kind of annoying. Yes. I don't think I would tell people to do that in my home. I think I would hope
to not bring your phone.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would either, but I was just saying, if you feel so inclined to have like a phone-free zone, I think these are some good strategies to like make sure you tell people in advance. So like maybe give them opportunities to check their phone, right? Like just whatever.
I just think you have to be careful about, in the same way you have to be careful about telling other people how to parent. And you can really only parent your own kid. Now, again, if you're the host, you get to decide what all the kids have access to or not. I'm a big fan. Like, yes, I do not have to have the iPads out available to anybody that's there. They can just be gone, or the switches or whatever. But I think it's a little tricky if you're telling people what to do with their property.
Well,
right? Like if they want to go into their phone and not engage with family during a family event, I have empathy for them. Like, it's kind of sad.
Right.
Like,
That's
right. Like, and it's like, okay, you're doing your thing and you're not talking to people. Like, that's really kind of sad.
But I think that also takes us to the question of parenting other people's kids and everyone parenting differently, right? We all parent differently. All of our kids are different. And one of the questions I have encountered is, how do you manage extended family when your child is neurodivergent? So whether that's autism, ADHD, learning disorders, intellectual disabilities, on and on, if your kid does not present as neurotypical, and whether that's joining everyone at the table to eat, trying a variety of foods, following the plan, like Lauren said, if that helps them regulate, to be on a screen in the corner on the phone playing a game because that helps them decompress. Screens always tend to help kids decompress, whether they're neurotypical or neurodivergent, unfortunately. And so what do you do when you are worried about your kid's behavior in someone else's home because they might not follow the rules? And how do you manage when an extended family member says, why isn't he joining? Why isn't he sitting down to eat? Why is he running? Why is he running around the whole time? What are your guys' thoughts about that?
I think it's like similar to like priming our kids. I think you need to prime your relatives, really set boundaries and that expectation in advance and say, this is what my kid is going to do or not do before it even happens, so that there isn't a situation, or at least you're trying to like minimize the possibility where someone can say, why isn't Johnny sitting with us right now? Or, why won't Johnny hug me back? So I think you have to, as a parent, feel comfortable, setting up the expectations of that other people will have of your child, and just know that that's not going to happen. I have a cousin whose son is on the autism spectrum, and his birthday was over the summer, and she did such a nice job of, when it was time for the cake, to just stand up in front of everyone and say, thank you all for coming so much. My son is so excited that you're all here. He does not want us to sing happy birthday, so we're just going to stand here. We're going to take a picture with the whole family and the cake. And that's what it was. There was no room for anyone to say, what? I mean, she just did such a nice job. I mean, and she did it in such a pleasant way, where it was like, thank you all for coming. So wonderful to see you. We're not singing. This is what we're going to do. Come take a picture with us. And that was the end of it. Nobody said anything. And if you're wondering, like, why is that a big deal? In our family, when it's a birthday party, you sing in English, then you sing happy birthday in Spanish. And then depending on which family member, you may also get a third happy birthday in Portuguese. So it's actually a big deal in our family to sing happy birthday. And everybody was just like, got it.
Went along with it.
There was not a single peep from a person.
Yeah, like that can be a sensory overload for kids on the spectrum. That happy birthday can be really challenging.
Yes.
Right. Well, that and the singular attention on the child in that moment, for sure. It's interesting though, Vanessa, that takes a lot as a parent. I applaud your cousin for doing that, because I think part of the issue that people run into is potentially not wanting to demonstrate that vulnerability in saying, this is what would be helpful for my child, or let me help explain my child's behavior. But then in not explaining it, it's a lot easier for people, good or bad, to then judge the behavior. So if you as a parent can show that willingness to say, like, I'm going to do this because this is what's best for my child, even though I might receive judgment or it might make me uncomfortable, then good for that parent. Because I don't fault members of a family especially if they're from older generations that don't understand different aspects of childhood functioning, especially as we understand it now. This is all very new. still, like in its early stages in terms of understanding it. And so if you can even just say something so brief like that, like, here's what we're going to do, here's why, period, end of story, you really have set your child up for success, as well as the other people in the room that otherwise might not understand what was happening.
Yeah.
To no fault of their own.
Yeah.
Right.
And Lauren,
Go ahead.
I think that to be able to do that, because I know that if I start to feel that like judgment from others around something my kid's doing, I start to get a little bit dysregulated myself, especially if I'm hosting. So it's like, I'm hosting, I'm trying to like navigate this. And the minute I get dysregulated, I am not parenting the way that I would like want to parent. So I actually think another tip is to take a breath, take a beat, like maybe take a break, go to the bathroom for a second, take a breath, and then if you need to, and then so you can step into what you need to do as a parent for your kid to parent the way you need to, which might be to be like, hey, this is what we're doing, or hey, why don't you go, step over here, even though you're getting the stares or the glares, that you are not letting kind of the room dictate how you want to parent, which I think takes a lot of self-regulation and staying grounded in like what you value as a parent and how you want to parent. And in addition to that, I think that I know that I've gotten this comment. I know I have several patients who navigate this, which is oh, you never acted this way, or you like, oh, like you didn't do this, or your brother didn't do this, kind of implying, and it's not necessarily coming
that
from
what
a place of
what they remember
maliciousness.
from 35 or 40 years ago is no.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's accurate.
It's
Completely
accurate.
accurate.
So we'll take that, put that to the side.
Yes. So one, it's accurate always, right?
Right.
But yet what it sort of implies is, well, I must have done this better than you're doing it because your behavior like clearly was better, meaning I was a better parent and you had better behavior because I was a better parent. So you're not doing as good of a job, which is not necessarily what they're not necessarily wanting to say that, but that's what that comment
comes across.
implies.
But that's generational. And we actually touched on that when Anna Hammond joined us. But when I say generational on our part, meaning that we think our kids' behavior represents our parenting, as opposed that it says, again, like it's all about us. Like, oh, our parents' judgment must be about me. Like everything's about me. And my child's behavior is about me, versus generations past were a bit more individuated, where the child's behavior was more about the child than about the parenting. There wasn't such a focus on they did a good job parenting. It was more like the kid was the kid.
You don't think that comment ever implies just a little bit of like, you didn't act this way?
It might, but I think it's also important to recognize why the possible judgment bothers you. So if I'm thinking about me, it's because I care about the people saying it. So it does come from a really good place. I care about the older generation of my family. And if they're saying something that I'm perceiving as judgment, that bothers me because I care about them.
Because I care.
Right.
Right.
And I care, and I care what they think.
It's nuanced in that regard of like, and that's actually, when I think about that, and I talk about this a lot with my clients in terms of, and actually even with my kids, if you're anxious about something, it's because you care. Or you want to do well on that exam, or you want to perform well in that activity, that sport, whatever. Anxiety informs you about how you feel about this particular event.
Yeah.
And I think judgment does the same thing. It's okay, I actually care about their opinion. And that's I perceive it as okay. Like I love them. I care about them and I care what they think about me. But then it does roll right into what Terry's saying, which is, and we then judge ourselves for our child's behavior when sometimes our kid is tired and didn't eat because they don't like the Thanksgiving meal and we didn't prepare that and we should have fed them in the car before we got to Thanksgiving. And like, it is what it is. They had a meltdown and it's not a reflection of us. It was a reflection of that circumstance during that 30-minute period.
I think in having this conversation, I'm thinking like even more importantly, I think than priming your kids is priming yourself
Yeah.
for what
Yes.
is going to happen and what's not going to happen. I think that that's actually where you start is priming yourself for the interactions you're going to have.
Right.
You know, one of the things
Nobody has
that I thought
changed.
of.
Like every
Yes. Yes. This
Yeah.
holiday is going to be
Shocker.
like
Yeah.
the holiday
No.
before it.
Yes.
Yes. I think we talked about that in our last
We did. We
dealing
did.
with the holidays.
Yes.
You know, thinking of parenting, and one of the things that I like kind of stuck out to me when we brought this topic up was when Everly was little and sleep.
Mm.
And you know, I say to parents, stick to your guns, stick to your schedule, stick to your plan. You got to get there late. That's fine. Get there late. You need to leave early. Sorry, leave early.
Yep.
You got to go take a nap. Go take a nap. Like we were so like protective of her sleep, especially when she's young. I mean, we still are like, you know, want her to get to bed on time, but when with all the naps and, you know, coming from like a large Latino family, you know, for Christmas, for example, you get together Christmas Eve, you stay up till midnight and you open your presents. And I was like, that's not happening with my kid. And I get it. I survived it. We all did. We did it. And I got some flack from people, you know, like I was the sleep, you know, police, whatever. I'm not telling your kid to go to bed. I'm putting my kid to bed. But that's just like an example of, you know, stick to your guns. You got to do what's best for you and your kid. And it's okay. Sometimes people might be disappointed and, you know, you just have to do kind of what's best. Now that she's older, like we're definitely more flexible. But when she was younger, I was like, that's great. That's when the party starts, but we'll get there when, you know, when
And
we
I
can.
will say there, so I was just like you, Vanessa.
Same.
I was asleep,
Same.
like, oh my gosh. That said, and I know that it's all over the child psych research, but Dr. Becky really hits this a lot too. There is a point at which we do have to kind of flip the script and start to work on helping our children deal with frustration and challenges and things like that. Not when they're toddlers, right? Like, but there is a time period at which we have to say like, hey, this is what our family does. And I know it's not what we do. And so here's how we're going to prepare for it. It's going to be really hard for you to stay up because we still go to bed at 9 o'clock and the rest of the family does not, and blah, 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 blah. There is a time at which we need to take responsibility as parents to say like, sticking to our guns is not about like appeasing our child all the time and protecting them.
Yeah.
And like, we do need to teach them to tolerate frustration in these situations. So there's nuance there when you're maybe, I don't even know if it's new versus as like a new parent versus as the kids get older, but there are different situations in which it's like, okay, now it's on us as parents to work with the child as opposed to everybody else.
Yeah. Well, I think that a good example is the screen time. So if Aunt Lauren called me and said, we're not doing screens, then it's my job to tell my kid, I'm sorry, but you're, you know, like that's an example. Like I'm going to say to my kid,
figure out.
This is how, like, there's not going to be any screens there. And I get that, like, you usually do a screen to, you know, and I'm using screen as an example of whatever. You fill in the blank. This is how we're going to do it. So I absolutely agree that there are going to be situations where you have to help your kid get through a situation that they're not used to. And, figuring out that again beforehand if you know that that's something that's going to be different that you're faced with, but that's I think there's both sides to it, right? Setting them up for success by making sure they have the things that they need, but then also setting them up for success by saying here's what's not going to be there and what's not going to happen that you typically does happen for you, or you know that we do at our house. It's going to be different at so-and-so's
and
house.
I think that multiple things can be true. We talk about this a lot, right?
All the time.
And so within a family dynamic where you have lots of different family members together, people can have a perspective that is an honest and accurate portrayal of how they're feeling, and someone else is doing the right thing for them, and those two do not go together, and it doesn't mean that either one of them is wrong. And Vanessa, I'm thinking about your example because I remember there was a Thanksgiving a few years back. My nephews were still very, very young. I mean, they're young still, but somehow the timing of like we had worked on dinner, we had gotten it all ready, and then like they ate and left within like 20 minutes. And we were like,
I've done that.
Well, and we felt frustrated because we were like, So that didn't feel
That
great
was not my
because
preference.
my favorite part of Thanksgiving, that
Yeah.
was not my preference
But I will
because my
ask, did
favorite
they
part of
tell you that that was going to happen?
No,
So,
no.
okay. So that then to me, it's like, if I was going to go to someone's house for 20 minutes, I would have said like,
Well, no,
hey,
they
just so
were
you
there
know. Right.
earlier, but like
I was just
once
going to
it
say,
came
but
to the meal.
were they there for multiple hours beforehand and thought dinner was going to be earlier?
No, we said what time
Oh.
dinner was going to be,
Yeah.
Oh.
but I think there was like fussiness starting to happen and things like that, and then they left. And here's the thing, I actually understand that too. Like I get
Yeah.
how that is, and so Vanessa, to your point, like they were trying to stay on schedule. They knew if they like went longer, the meltdowns were just going to get more. They were going to
Yeah.
put down tired kids, and I got that. Like I get that. I also was like, that didn't feel great. So maybe next year we need to address this and have dinner earlier.
Yeah.
Or
Wow.
I think last year, the year after that, I was sort of like, hey, I think I made a comment about like, let's spend a little bit more time at the table or something. I didn't say it quite that obviously, but I was like, kind of like, we put all of this work into making the food, and my favorite part is sitting around and talking as we're eating.
Every time.
And so
Takes 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
I know.
That was
Yeah.
Every time.
it was like they weren't wrong in what they did, and I knew that, but I also wasn't wrong with like being a little
Right.
bit disappointed by it. So it's like two things can be true,
Right,
yeah.
and
But
you
also,
can't.
I think, and yeah, absolutely. But I think that also like requires some communication too, right?
Right.
So if you're the only, like, if especially if you have a small family, like I'm thinking, like, you know, when I was going to these giant family parties, like me leaving, no one even noticed
Right,
that I'm gone,
correct.
right?
Yes.
Versus if I'm going to like an intimate one-on-one thing, then I'm going to be like,
Oh, yeah.
hey,
Half the table just left. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
yeah, like I wouldn't be like, hey, it's time for us to, right? Like
No.
I would have approached the host and said, hey, just so you know, like, is there any flexibility here? Totally get it. If it's not, like, you know, we're gonna have to like leave at this time, whatever. So I think,
Or, and what I used to do at Dana's house for tailgates when Sam and Jack were little is I used to bring the pack and play and put them
Yes.
down
Oh,
in
yeah.
the middle of a tailgate. And Dana's husband, Tunde, Dana's my sister, Tunde's her husband, has said now with little kids, he's like, I never understood what you were doing in the middle of a tailgate when you would take the boys upstairs and put them down in our room. But it allowed us to stay longer.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
like now, to your point, Wilhelmina, two things can be true. At the time, I'm sure they were like, this is the wackiest thing I've ever seen. And now it's like, oh,
They
wait a
get
minute, tailgates can be 6 hours and that's a really long time. And she wanted to stay longer. And now I get it. Like,
Yes.
whatever. Like, so yeah, I think some flexibility and perspective taking goes a long way in just like, having a positive experience during the holidays.
and I
Also,
think you
keep
brought
that
up a
pack
good
and
point.
play.
Yeah.
For
You
me,
brought up a good point about how they weren't parents at the time. And so
Yeah.
I think that this conversation is actually really helpful for people who maybe their kids are grown now and they've maybe forgotten like how it's like when kids are little and you're like, oh yeah, like sleep's a big deal, right? Or have not had don't have kids, never have had kids, and they are struggling with, you know, your request to like, hey, I gotta leave or whatever. I think this can be really helpful. Or even kids, like when you're a parent of a kid who is neurotypical and you don't have a kid who is not, that also is very different, right?
Sure.
And I don't think that, you know, we all work with kids who are, you know, and so we know what that looks like. Some of us even have kids who, you know, are, you know, neurodivergent. So we get that, but I don't think every parent who understands what it's like to have a kid who's not and who can't be as flexible, right? Or who, you know, whatever, you know, fill in the blank here. So I think this is a good conversation for everyone to kind of listen to and get that there's why someone might be doing something or not doing something during the holidays and, you know, how that can affect them. You know, I personally can say like, I was bummed when I had to leave, but I was like, okay, but I know that I'm doing the best thing for, you know, our daughter at the time. Or Lauren trying to figure out a way like, okay, yeah, I can go take a nap with her in a spare bedroom, right? Like sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, we walked around Disney and made sure she had a nap time at Disney. I mean, I brought all the things. The kids slept in the stroller. Like we literally walked around the park while she, you know, so like you can also think outside the box a little bit too, to be able to give your kids what they need.
Another tip that I would include, especially given all our kids are school age, elementary age, tween, teen, is as we move away from having to be maybe hopefully as rigid about leaving early, et cetera, and kids do get to hang a little bit longer and maybe stay up a little bit later, is letting kids be a part of the magic and giving them jobs and including them. And that might mean the tree doesn't get decorated exactly how you like, or the cookies don't look perfect. But I think if we can include kids and give them jobs or communicate with our extended family, whoever is hosting, hey, it would be really cool if blah, blah, could help peel the potatoes for the mashed potatoes, or let's make Christmas cookies, let's decorate houses, whatever, any jobs that you can give kids, include them in routine at the table. Yes, at the table, or create new traditions that your kids want to come up with. I think is really key as your kids are in school age and then even teenagers. And I'm a big fan of,
I love that. I asked Maddie and Griffin just yesterday if they wanted to make a side dish for Thanksgiving. And Griffin's like, well, I mean, I guess if it was easy. I'm like, he's like, what about mac and cheese? And I was like, that would be perfect. I was like, then there's mac and cheese for the kids and you guys can team up and make that together. And so like,
and let them
that
do
was
it.
one way I was trying to like,
let it be their version. It's okay if it looks weird or doesn't taste great or whatever, but letting go of that perfectionism and just letting them do it and have that experience.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Any last minute thoughts on our topic for today? Those are some good tips and strategies.
I think that's a great way to end.
My last one would be just remember their kids.
I got one more.
One more. It's really simple. Just remember their kids. Everybody needs to remember their kids.
I think that's a good one for everyone.
Yep.
Parents and not parents. Yes. Their children.
Their kids.
Awesome. All right, ladies. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. Please join us next time on The Shrink Down.